Good afternoon. First of all, apologies for those of you who are horrified by the sight of me with no top on. I've just done a 4 mile run. I've just dived in the shower. I'm still hot and bothered, so feel free to scroll if it's upsetting you. I apologise. So recently I've had a few people ask me to give some more stories about life in prison, and I'm happy to do that. There are so many topics and so many stories in my head and written down, kept in shoe boxes 6 feet away from me. But I'm going to talk first about sex offenders and the whole kind of the way things work and how even the more experienced people like me can be duped, I guess, by these people from time to time. There's one particular instance that goes right back 20 years when I was in Belmarsh, and my co-defendant Danny, he ended up on house block 4, which is where I was because I was a gym orderly, and it worked out well because I was able to then get him a job in the gym, and that was great. It's nice to work with your mates. Anyway, when he first arrived on the wing, he, like most people, was put straight in a 3-up, a 3-man cell. You have a bunk bed on one side and a single bed on the other, and it's kind of is a hierarchy kind of thing. Whoever wants what, and you just kind of work it out. Anyway, blah blah blah. One of his cellmates was a guy called Glenn. I do remember his surname. Shall I say it? I don't really know. I'm gonna pass at this time, but yeah, Glenn. So he came in, and obviously he was Danny's cellmate, and naturally they talked and interacted a fair bit. And Dan, kind of felt sorry for him a bit, and he had nothing. He had nobody helping him out from outside. There were occasions when me and Danny chipped in and bought him some canteen on the weekly canteen sheet, because probably from Danny's point of view, it's not very pleasant to sit in your cell eating all the kind of goodies and whatnot that you've bought, and your one of your cellmates is sat there with absolutely sweet fuck all. So yeah, we helped him out a little bit. He told us he was in on a GBH charge, that he'd never been in trouble before. And he was humble and kind of quiet, seemed nice. And yeah. And then he'd been there for a few months, and he was transferred to another prison. I think it was Brixton. And that's not especially unusual in London jails, because if you're on remand in one jail and that doesn't actually serve the court that you need to go backwards and forwards to, you will eventually end up in the prison that serves that court. So in his case, it was Brixton. I think his court was in a London Crown. I'm not 100% sure. 20 years ago. Give me a break, guys. But so he got moved, and that was the end of that. People come, people go. He wasn't particularly anything to us apart from having been Danny's cellmate. And then about a week later, I came back from work in the gym one afternoon, and someone had put a South London Press under my door, and he was the front cover, and he had just got I think it was 9 years. It might have been 14 years, but I think it was 9 for rape. And he had us over. And I read the article, I read what he'd done, but I also read that he had been in prison before because he'd been convicted of rape about 10 years earlier and got a sentence for that as well. So he was effectively a serial rapist, pulled the wool over our eyes and everybody's eyes on the wing. And this is the thing about sex offenders and similar, like informants, policemen, even prison officers from other prisons, depending what they're actually nicked for. If they're nicked for bringing drugs in for people, then no one cares and they'll be fine. But if it's something else and you're an ex-screw, then yeah, you know. So the point is that obviously the important thing with this is that there's a thing called Rule 43 in prison, and that is the right of somebody who sees themselves as a vulnerable prisoner, a VP, a bacon bonce as we call them, rhyming slang for nonce. They can go on what we call the numbers or the cucumbers or the rule, all these little nicknames. But it's important to understand something. It's voluntary. You don't have to. Just because you're nicked for rape or some pedo fucking disgusting shit, it doesn't mean that you automatically get put on a wing for your protection. You have to ask for it. It will be offered to you when you hit reception in whatever jail you end up in. But if you fancy taking your chances and riding it out, then they can't stop you doing that. And let me tell you, a lot of people do that. There are certainly more sex offenders on what we call general population, normal location, in every prison than there are on any of the VP wings, any of the VP units. That's a fact. The data backs that up. It's true. So over the years, obviously, I realised that you have to be really careful who you talk to, and I am anyway, because let's face it, everybody, in my general life, I'm not a fan of people in general. I it's not that I dislike people, I can just take it or leave it. I like my own company, and yeah, there are a few reasons why I just prefer peace and quiet. I hate crowds. The only crowds I will put up with are at Stamford Bridge when I go to Chelsea, or if I watch New Zealand play England at Twickenham, something like that. But anyway, back to the story. So yeah, you can get had over, and it's happened to me a few times. Nothing major, just you just feel like, oh fuck, if I'd known, I could have, you know, back in the day we used to bash them and all sorts. There's a little sub story to this as well, because obviously now we knew what we knew, and he was gone, Glenn, but is his name, I'm not going to say it. But I was a gym orderly, and as part of my work, I had to be at the gym at 8 o'clock in the morning for VP gym, which is separate to everyone else's. And I was there. The screws had collected the VPs. They're on the other side of the wing I was on, house block 4 in Belmarsh. They start filing into the changing room, and I'm there looking absolutely my best poker face, or my best kind of, yeah. Anyway, he walks in, and I'm looking at him now, and I'm giving him daggers, and he's looked at me and he's gone, "Is there a problem?" I went, "Yeah, there's a fucking problem, you fucking nonce, but you know as well as I do there's nothing I can do about it. So fuck off and do your training." And that was that. So there's a prison story. There are more to come.